I am excited, Alfredo. Welcome to the Mikey G Podcast Experience. How are you doing?
I'm doing great here in New York on a better day today. It's sunny, and
Yes,
I
man.
am happy, happy, happy. And Mike, thank you for having me and everybody listening. I hope we get some wisdom, some fun. Going deep into some I think important things.
Yeah, I totally agree. Are you in the city?
No, I am like 20 minutes up north in Westchester.
Yes, yes.
In White Plains, I go to the city 2 or 3 times a year, although I am
Hmm.
20 minutes away.
Yeah, yeah.
I let craziness to those who want to, I,
Correct.
I am doing well here in my neighborhood. I have everything I need.
The north part of the state is beautiful, and I love the city. I almost moved there right out of college, and I most of my friends that moved there just never left. You get sucked into this vortex, which is New York City. But the rest of the state is actually gorgeous. So I'm super excited to have you here. Real quick for the audience and the OG Mike G crew, what's going on? I still will continue to mention this. I do not tweet as much. Web3, crypto, all of the things. I still love it. I still pay attention to it. But I am on LinkedIn now, and we've got startups and building. This has been a lot of fun. I really hope people take the message that I kind of repeat here too is if you're going to do something crazy like help build a startup or start a podcast, you got to have fun doing it. The passion is such a key to what you're doing, and surround yourself with really good people. So my buddy Adam, he was actually on this podcast and just built a beautiful, beautiful system to really prevent the nefarious things happen with AI agents. And so we're in the safety governance stuff, and we're just having a really good fun. Met a ton of great people. We have our second podcast too called Guardrails. So we talk about AI safety and governance. We do that every Friday at 2 p.m. on LinkedIn Live. So if you are in the AI startup world, using agents, please hit me up. I'd love to talk to you and just see what you're up to and what you're doing. So that's it. Enough about me. Next, Alfredo. Alfredo is the man, the myth, the legend. And one of the things, thank you very much for reaching out to me. I think I think you just randomly found some of my stuff on LinkedIn, and you
Yeah.
gave me a note, and then we had a conversation, and it was super exciting. So he's an expert in positive psychology, insanely passionate about giving people their strengths, and thinks everybody has a right to purpose. People that are avid listeners of this sounds pretty familiar. And it was so cool. And which really excited me was there's somebody out there, that grew up in a totally different place of the world, and we both came to the same conclusions. Like literally what he believes in and what he embodies is the same thing I do with my life and this podcast and everything I try to do. And then I can't wait to talk about our stories because they're eerily similar as well. So it's a beautiful, beautiful thing. But this is one of the most exciting things is he is an everyday MMA fighter in practice. This is how he stays healthy. This is how he still looks beautiful on camera right now. Alfredo, how did I do? Anything else you want to add there on the formal intro?
I even feel proud of myself, and of somebody who is so self-critical.
Yeah.
That's a great accomplishment, Mike.
Thank you. Yeah, and it's just I think to you too. Probably the reason you reached out and we talked is I really do think what we talk about and what we both believe in is because I think I told you too this 5 to 6 years ago, I really just saw all this coming, right? I was like, this tech is just folding in humanity in a bad way. And we need to understand that I think we're all connected in my mind, right? Humans are just like this connected tissue. And when when all of your self-worth goes away, right? Your job title and your money and how much you're earning, and you have to completely think about everything differently. We're going to be in a world of hurt if you don't understand who you are as a human being and what your superpower is. And we resonate on a deep, deep level. So, to get there and have a more beautiful conversation about this, we ask one simple question. And Alfredo, that is to reiterate for the audience that has never seen this show before, the world famous Mikey G podcast experience question. Alfredo, how did you get the seat you're sitting in today? Please give me chapter 1, 2, and 3 to reiterate what those are for the audience. Chapter 1 is your childhood. Prompting questions here. Parents, parental figures. Were there some mantras that you lived by? Be kind, pay it forward, work hard. Were you a tinkerer? Did you play sports? A vivid memory. Give me 2 sentences. We'll talk forever. Cannot wait to do that. Chapter 2 is going to be your professional career, entrepreneurship, your studies, whatever that may be. But again, remember here, we are interested in the insights, lesson learned. A lot of those usually come from failures. Some of them come from success. And then chapter 3 is what you're working on with positive psychology. What does the next 3 to 6 months look like? And then we'll wind it down. So have at it. Start anywhere in the childhood, Alfredo. I cannot wait to hear it.
Look, I mean, I grew up in Argentina, and I was one of those kids that basically wished that their parents would divorce.
Mm,
Okay, that's very, that's a strong statement.
yeah.
I pray to God
Wow.
that my parents would split.
Mhm.
I loved my parents, bless their memory tremendously, but clearly they had a dynamics that was at least toxic. And the way
Yeah.
of loving each other was a way of hurting each other.
Mm,
And I was all the time caught in the dynamics. I basically ran away from my home so many times,
mhm,
and I just walked a mile away, and then I got scared and walked back. I
mm,
think that my parents had some kind of mental illness, and this was Argentina 40 years ago. Nobody talked about it. Psychiatrists were like completely unknown, and then they did the best they could.
Bro,
Ultimately,
I already have a question. I'm gonna pop in right here.
yeah.
Why do you think, and you've been in this space, but this is always really fascinating to me, is um, I think one of the things I've heard a lot about living in America is I just have this vivid memory. There was um, where were we at in San Antonio? There was somebody from Denmark that was visiting us, and there was just a person in a wheelchair, like on a dance floor, and we're having a blast, right? And one of the things I think I've appreciated about here is that I've had a lot of friends from Europe or other places, and they're like, America is definitely a lot more accepting of just people being different, right? And then talking about mental health and these things. So my question is, why 40 years ago was it so taboo and mental health was just not talked about? Was it because it was embarrassing to people? Was it just the way it was? What are your
No,
thoughts?
no, look, today is still taboo, even in
True, but
America.
it was even more, right? It's like at least
Well,
we're trying to start to have a little conversation, right?
well,
Um,
the language we used, they were crazy, they were lunatics, you know,
mm,
nuts. Look at the language we used. It just in South America 40 years ago, to be known for a mental illness was basically a death sentence in terms of not getting a job or
right.
not being trusted. But I must also say, I don't want to sound completely negative. My parents gave me the gift of resilience and
Yes.
endurance of knowing how to enjoy the good moments,
Hmm.
of their perseverance amidst their own struggles, that
Yes.
they, in this toxic relationship, ultimately, at the end, they learn to love each other
Hmm.
and they found redemption. I think that
Wow.
my
Yeah.
father made a 180 degrees at the end of his journey and
Yeah.
made
Yeah.
peace, and they loved each other in a certain way. And I think that me coming to America at the age of 20, before globalization, which
Mm,
I told my friends I'm going to America, and was like, you're going to the moon or Venus. We didn't know anybody.
right.
My first trip was to the University of Cincinnati, where I got a
Mm,
scholarship, and I remember going to buy a ticket from Buenos Aires to Cincinnati, and you couldn't buy it. I mean, nobody knew where Cincinnati was.
right. Right. Right.
I couldn't locate Cincinnati on a map. I had to buy a ticket to Miami and buy one at the airport. Then, I came to the States before, you know, everybody thought I was crazy. And in some way I was escaping from,
Yes.
okay,
Yes.
I was running away. But the same token, that was a blessing in disguise, because all that I achieved in my life and the happiness I have today, it had to do also with that journey. Then you never know how the gifts will come in your life. And sometimes you have to read your life backwards, okay,
Yeah.
from the last chapter to the first, not in sequential order, but in reverse order, in order to be able
Interesting.
to see your blessings.
Yeah. Yeah. And you said something very um impactful right there, which was you'll never know how these blessings unfold or unpack, right? What is your like advice? And because you hear this stuff all the time online, is like work hard and persevere and it'll all work out. What is your just like thought to someone who is struggling right now to like figure out these blessings, right? Is it just a matter of time and reflection? What are your thoughts there?
I think time is always important. I always tell people I work with and I coach, the worst waste is going through a struggle without wisdom. Okay,
Mm,
struggles are unavoidable, many of them in life. Okay, we don't choose them, we go through them. What is avoidable is going through a struggle without asking yourself the question of what you learn from it.
that is beautiful.
That's a complete waste. Then I always, by the way, I do not like this idea that you got to go through suffering to learn. Okay.
Interesting. Talk to
Okay.
me a little bit more about that.
This comes from religious traditions, in which basically we bought into the paradigm that suffering brings clarity and suffering brings redemption. I
Right.
don't like that. Okay, I think that you can learn and find fulfillment from the good and the pleasurable. Okay,
Yeah.
that you don't need. Okay, but we are all going to go through suffering because that's the nature of life. And if
Correct.
you are going to go through it, then your job is not to go to waste, but not learning from it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then it is very difficult, Mikey, to learn as you go through the suffering. Okay, you're going through a storm, but it's going to be a moment where you are either on the eye of the storm or out of it. And what people try to do is to leave it behind immediately and move to the next thing. That's a
Yeah.
mistake. It has
Yeah.
to be a moment of reflection and asking questions about what they learned.
Yeah.
Moving
Yeah.
too fast to forget is a waste of opportunity.
Yeah. And so man, it's beautiful. I mean, we could just stop the podcast now and we've already dropped so many bombs and people would just be a better human being for hearing this part. Here's the question though. And I always like to do this too, is totally deeply resonate with what you're saying, because the worst part of my life, the reason I am who I am today and so fulfilled and excited and happy when I wake up is because I had this deep, deep self-reflection and understanding and just it was like I don't know. It was like this next level of insight and wisdom just unlocked. It's a beautiful thing. And my question to you is, what does reflection look like for like what do you physically or actually tell people to do to get that? Because again, that's kind of like a broad, like I can't touch what you said. Like I get what you're saying, but it's like, okay, so how do I actually do that?
Yeah,
Where's the
look,
practical application of what you just said?
then we learn from positive psychology that each person has what is called an explanatory style. The
Oh.
explanatory style is how you tell yourself your life. And we need
Mm,
to understand that the reality of what you tell yourself is even more real than what's happened outside of you. Because two people are going to go through the same problem, and one is going to come out of it positively and the other negatively. And there are no difference in the events, only in the way they tell the events to themselves. That we are all writers, and what we write is our own life.
I
But,
love that.
but we don't know it. You know why? Because we've been writing the same style of writing for the last 20, 30 years.
Yes.
Then you write in automatic pilot, and you may be a writer of tragedies of your own life and living a tragedy because that's what you write inside,
Yeah.
or comedy or adventure, and you don't even know, do not know the style you're writing about
Yeah.
yourself.
Yeah.
Then there are some keywords that give us, an understanding of what kind of writer we are. If something negative something's happened to you, and you
Yeah.
use the words always, okay,
Oh.
every time, then you say, I always fail, okay, I never succeed. Then you're writing a tragedy. If something negative something to you happened to you, and you say to yourself, well, this time I didn't sleep well yesterday. That's why I didn't do well on the interview.
Mhm.
Or sometimes when I eat poorly, I feel bad all day long. Or whatever, the words you use, they are the ones, that make the Lego pieces of your story. Then when you're talking to yourself and having internal dialogue, you stop for a second and you ask yourself what words I am using, always, never, sometimes. Now you write it down, even better, because you write down how I talk to myself in the last 2 minutes when something negative happens, and begin analyzing which language you use. I tell you, when you take control of the language, you take control of your life.
Mm. That is a beautiful, beautiful insight. Let's yes, we will get there, but I wanna rewind a little bit. But, it's okay that we're organic. I wanna rewind a little bit, though, because what I'm interested in now is thank you, honestly, Artie, for being vulnerable as well, too, talking about your parents and, you talked about these themes, and again, prime example of what you said in practice, which was the reflection, is you understood how these things impacted you, but you also got that resilience in these different things. But I think even being just the practice of being able to look back, see the situation you went through, and then defining the characteristics that it helped you become, right? And it helped the skills become, that
Right.
alone is a practice that people don't even really spend time on. And it's critical. It's really critical. So going back to that, you said it built resilience. The one thing I'm actually interested in too, that I love to ask is like your actual interest, right? At this time in life. Like let's, let's get to like high school, middle school time. But as you're evolving and growing as a human being, is it writing? Is it art? Is it science? What is really piquing your interest as you're starting to form?
Well, I wasn't always been an avid reader. Okay. And reading is an interesting activity. reading in some way is creating a reality on the page or connecting to a different geography, the geography of the text, when the geography of life is painful. Then I began reading as a way to live in the story or the philosophy. I like to read philosophy, to live in the philosophical ideas more than living in the pain of reality. And I read and read and read, and I found on the intellectual life a place of security, a place of growth. Then, look, I have a law degree, I have a doctorate in philosophy, I have an MSW with clinical therapy, and then I became an executive coach and positive psychology. Then, then some people say, well, that's a lot of learning, and you are so smart.
Right.
And I would say that what if you look at my character strengths, which are the top strengths of positive psychology, my top three are creativity, love of learning, and curiosity.
Mm, mm.
Okay, then it wasn't so much about being smart, but being in an alignment between what is best in me and living a life that reflected it.
That's beautiful. And so you came. What was it about reading and learning? So because this happened from a really early age. Do you think this is yet another transition of like reading form of escape, but actually the positive impact was you're learning and growing? Is that simple, more complex? Any
No,
insights
no,
there?
I think that I was lucky in some way that my escape was also my strength.
Yes.
Okay, and I would say that for many people that happens too. That they usually, unless they go into something very toxic like drugs,
Yeah.
and
That's where it gets bad.
right, drugs or self-inflicted pain. Many people escape to what they make them feel, realized. But if you don't know it, you don't take full advantage of it. That's where the
Right.
reflection comes.
Right.
Then once I learned my character strengths of positive psychology, then my escape became a blessing, not just an escape,
Mm,
because it became intentional,
mhm, mhm,
directional, and purposeful.
mhm. So let's get to more of the transition into the chapter two. There's just like so many beautiful insights. I would love to now start talking about because I've got a really good base. You've shared some beautiful things, um, this escape turning into actual resilience, uh, learning, and you're transitioning, and now you're decided. I think the true escape, like you said, was I need to get out of here and I'm going to go to America. So let's kind of start transitioning into chapter two and then why you decided to study whatever you decided to study and then get into the career part.
You see, you don't escape knowing that you're escaping.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
Okay, the understanding that you're escaping to transform it into a blessing is, like you mentioned, the art of reflection.
Yeah.
And for me, came through therapy. I am a believer I've been always going to therapy. For me, it's an hour a week where I can talk with somebody I trust in complete confidence and go deep into myself.
Mm-hmm.
It came through reading and intellectual pursuit. It came through spirituality
Yeah.
and meditation, where you let through meditation your thought flow and you observe them. That's a very important aspect of meditation, to observe your thoughts without judging. And like you said, physical activity, the MMA, believe it or not, is it's a spiritual time for me.
Yes.
Then all those things together made me transition from escaping as a reaction to escaping and growing as a reflection.
Yeah.
And then I came to America and I wanted to study philosophy, and I studied a PhD in philosophy. And I taught at the university. I love to teach. Eh, and in a different settings. I taught at the university. Now I do it through workshops at corporations,
Right.
which is my main activity.
So before we get there, though, take me through like your first studies and then your first couple jobs of like when you started your career, right?
I came here through America without a word of English, and I remember
Wow.
I remember I went to Cincinnati, and I came early to the university. Then the dorms were empty,
Yeah.
and I was hungry because the cafeteria was closed. And I walked down the street, and I wanted to eat something. I was
Yeah.
starving, and I asked somebody on the streets with no English, like, eat,
Yeah.
eat, eat, eat. And the guy said to me, I remember, Subway.
Uh,
And in Argentina, and I look at the dictionary. I had a pocket dictionary, and I look what Subway was.
uh,
In Argentina, at the subway stations,
right.
there are stores where you can eat, cafeterias, and stores. Then
Uh,
I was like crazy looking for the entrance to the subway, walking blocks
oh
and
my
blocks and
gosh.
blocks and blocks and blocks. And then until I was coming back completely crazy, and I see Subway sandwich.
Yeah.
Okay, that was my level of English.
Do
Then,
you still go to Subway because of that moment is the question.
oh yes, I'm sure, but I am very conscious of what I eat. That I only eat the veggie delight. You know,
Nice. I like it. I like it. That's hilarious. Okay, so what did you first study then?
Then the first thing I study is, well, I studied clearly English as a second language. That was the
Mhm.
first thing I did. It was the University of Cincinnati. They were all Asians. I was the only one from the western part of the world because
Yeah.
it was a big music school. And I
Mm.
remember the teacher brought us to read, of all things, from Plato, from the
Wow.
Republic, just to practice our English. And I was the only one in the class who knew who Plato was,
Wow.
because they were all coming from a different kind of intellectual background. That
Yeah.
was a
Yeah.
moment.
Yeah.
Then philosophy was my first thing, and my passion. And I took as much philosophy classes as I could without the language. It was a big struggle. I still have the dictionaries I use, all marked,
Wow.
all highlighted. I glue myself to TV to learn as much as I could.
Never thought about that. TV was a big learning
I had
experience
a
for you,
friend
huh?
of mine, the guy who gave me the scholarship to the university. He picked me up from the airport. He heard me talking no English whatsoever, and he went straight from the airport to a store and bought me a black and white small TV,
Oh
a
my gosh,
present.
that's amazing. So, because this is really fascinating to me in the sense that for somebody that grew up in America and is fluent in English, college is hard. And now you're going to college and trying to learn English all at the same time. That
But
is that's insane,
but
right?
it was for me. After college, I was already a lawyer. Then I had some, in Argentina. I finished law school. Then I had some, you know, discipline in how to learn. Again, I took English as second language. I, look at newspapers, and the professors were very nice to me. Um, the university had somebody that when I wrote papers that would check my papers. They were really very helpful. I worked during the summer. I work at summer camps, and the kids had a ball with me. Can you imagine? Like every prank that you can
Yeah.
imagine. I cannot even share them here on. I cannot share any of the pranks that they had with me here in public. But
Right.
I went to summer camp. I learned just from being with at summer camp, and and you know time, effort, and being in a full-time English environment, and survival skills, swim or sink. I learned the language. Interestingly, my wife sometimes says, tune it down, because my language comes from reading philosophical work,
Mm,
and and sometimes, when I write or things like that, I use words that my wife says, look, nobody uses those.
yeah.
That, and English speakers sometimes, when I write, they don't believe that English
Right.
is my second language. But
Right.
that comes because I was trained mostly
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
the academic
Yeah.
world.
Yeah. So talk to me about, because you had like a really successful career. And so talk to me about the actual career part where you progress. But when you go through this progression of your career, I want 2 to 3 real big lessons learned, insights, failures from wins, whatever it may be. But I'm interested in this meat right here, right? Because and then we'll get into the positive psychology, because we talked about, but on an intro call, we had this ramp to success and then the downfall from grace, right? But
Yeah.
the ramp to success, I'm very interested in, because there had to be some great insights there.
Yes. Look, the you know, I think that the main quality I had for my success, first of all, communication and passion. I come from Argentina. It's all passion. Everything you talk about is like 10 times more passion than the usual American voice. Okay. Your blood boils. You talk with your body. You talk
Yes.
with your eyes. And then I did very well at interviews.
Mm,
I interviewed very well because the commitment and the passion were all really patent, clear, and people always fell in love with that, and it was completely genuine. That's the way I am. I grew up in that culture. Then I bring a lot of passion. I I have the issue of justice is central to me. I come
mhm.
from the military dictatorship in Argentina
Yeah.
times, and study law, then justice and doing the right thing and being committed are central, to who I am. Then as a teacher and an academic, that commitment to the topic and the passion and the creativity were like, I think that were way behind me, as moving me ahead. Then I became the executive director of what is called the Hartman Institute, which is an international institute with its base in Jerusalem, Israel. And I became the executive director, and I travel all the United States fundraising money and connecting with people. And I am an introvert, super introvert. People don't believe it when they see me in action, but for me, doing is a way to extrovert.
Yeah.
Given a choice, I stay with a coffee and a good book, reading all day long. Then I travel the country connecting with people and fundraising and teaching, and traveling. And then I became the executive director of what is called the Skirball Center in Manhattan, which is an adult education center. where I designed classes and taught classes and created my own faculty.
Wow. The
And
classes were centered around what?
centered around spiritual subjects, history, philosophy, ethics, and again, I found an alignment, Mikey, between my what is called character strengths, creativity, love of learning, and curiosity, purpose, and objective. And I was thriving until I lost everything. I don't know when you want to go into that
Yeah,
and
so
get into
before you
that.
get to you lost everything, give me one or two examples, and what this could be, leadership, the importance of hard work, whatever these insights might be, because you did progress and you got these titles and you were seeing success.
Yes,
Give me one to two really tangible insights of that
good.
process.
I give you my number one insight. Don't fix it, nourish it.
Mm. Now unpack that a little bit for me,
You
like, give
need
me some examples.
we need to move from the culture of fixing to the culture of nourishing. This is a basic principle of positive psychology.
Mhm.
You get much farther nourishing than fixing. And what happened is that since childhood, the system is about fixing others. Parents always tell you what you have to be better at,
Yeah.
okay? And they do it out of love, but they are afraid that if you have a weakness, you're not going to succeed in life.
Mm.
Then they want the best for you, but they focus on what is weak. And then
Yep.
you go to school and the teachers say he's a good student, but he's not good at math.
Yeah.
And then the people feel if you're not good at math, you're not going to be a good engineer and do well at business and
Yeah.
have a successful career. And they focus on the negative. Then you go to do sports, and your coach also focuses in what is not you're not doing great. And then you go to a job, and your manager give you reviews on what you need to improve. And lo and behold, before you know it, the entire world is pointing all the time at what you are not good at.
Yeah. Yes. And
And
so, uh, the concept of nourishment instead of fixing, is the insight and recommendation for, I'm assuming, others and yourself, right? Can you give me an example of what that looks like of through this time, or your life experience of where you were maybe told to fix, instead you nourished and it benefited you?
yes, I mean, look, the I tell you a story about myself. Then I was terrible at math.
Correct.
Okay, and my parents would come after it was in high school. They had this, they went and they met all my professors or my teachers. And then my parents would come at night, and I was a stellar student. And they would say to me, you did great, Alfredo, with the exception of math. Then what did I remember? Not that
Right.
I was good at everything. I only remember that I wasn't good at math. And then I went the next day to school, and was a traumatic experience because I would be thinking about math all the time.
All right.
And I did worse at math. Now, you need to know the basic of math. But was I going to become a mathematician?
No.
No, I became a philosopher and an executive coach. I never was going to need math to become who I was.
Right.
Imagine
Right.
if you had nourished what I was great at. I would have been even greater.
Yeah.
Okay, then we do it all the time. We do with everything. Look, you have a pipe bursting at your basement, and you call the plumber to fix it. Fixing is bringing a crisis back to the point before the crisis. The
Correct.
pipe stopped leaking. Fixing does not entail improvement. Fixing is reestablishing the condition to what it was before the crisis occurred. there is no growth.
Right.
Nourishing is the art of going beyond the current state to the more elevating one. The difference between fixing and nourishing is enormous in the way you face the world, face others, and the attitude you have. And I see it with CEOs all the time when I go to corporations. The CEOs fixing, who actually sometimes they feel useless if they don't have a crisis to fix. And the
Mm,
nourishers who are always looking what is the best in the team to let this team flourish to the best they could be. Two completely different ways of leadership.
yep. And the second creates, ironically, because it's the opposite of what we've been taught, it creates amazing outcomes, don't you think?
Amazing is quantifiable, okay? 25% more performance, okay? 35% more loyalty. The numbers is all quantified by positive psychology. You know, Google did an experiment a few years ago where they ponder why groups, teams with brilliant people were underperforming teams with so-called average people. Okay, and they did a study, took years. They went to, and they were focusing on the talents of the people who were at each team, and they didn't get anywhere until they changed directions, and they began studying the team dynamics. And the number one difference between performing teams and underperforming teams was psychological safety. And what is psychological safety? The the feeling, the knowledge that you could make mistakes and learn from them without negative consequences.
Yeah.
Okay, that's nourishing.
Yeah.
Okay, the
Yeah.
nourishing is not only just saying a pat on your back, hey, you're great, cheerleading. No, no, no. Nourishing is the learning culture by which you allow people to take risks and make mistakes without feeling that that mistake is going to cost them their career. Psychological safety, number one component of team performance.
Beautiful. Give me 1 second. My dog's going a little bit, but that was incredible. And I have a question.
And I'm going to,
All right. So I couldn't agree more with you because I've been a leader for most of my career. And so I've been able to create that environment, right? And I took a very specific life action to take a step back from that because I wanted freedom and flexibility in my life and concentrate on my other things that excited me, right? But I still wanted to make income, so that was my solution. And so it put me in a situation where I had to just experience a lot of different leaders over that time. And the number one thing that I deal with and I struggle with is I believe in the nourishment path. And then when I get a leader that does not believe in the nourishment path, I try to nourish my peers, right? But the interesting thing that you say, and why I truly believe in what you say, is at my level, if even me nourishing my peers, it doesn't matter because it's not coming from the top down. And there's just nothing I can change my relationships on an individual level, but I'm never going to change the culture and the feeling. And it's just going to continue to run that way until it comes from top down. What are your thoughts there?
Well, I would just say that it matters. It matters what how you treat your peers. Actually, they are the ones with whom you spend most of the time. And when I work with teams and everybody learns each other's strengths,
Yeah.
then there is a different view of each other, and they begin leveraging in a positive way what is
Yeah.
best in each
Yeah.
other. But
Yeah.
definitely, it's all about culture, and you need a culture of nourishment from top down that permeates the entire system. If the leaders are not in the nourishing path, it's going to become extremely difficult for everybody else
Yeah.
to achieve their potential,
100%.
because they are going to be second guessing themselves all the time, and they're going to feel abused in some cases. And who wants to who can be at the best if they feel the weight of judgment
Oh,
constantly upon them. That's it works short. The problem is it work in the short. At first you get great results. Pressure pressure is a good tool to get results in the short term,
mm,
and then you get blinded by the immediate results. It's a terrible tool for long-term commitment, motivation, and perseverance. People are going to run away from you at the first opportunity.
100%. So beautiful. Let's move to the fall from grace and just we'll do that and then we'll get into the positive psychology. So you are executive director, you're progressing your career, you're moving through different phases of your career in a very successful way. I love the nourishment insight. You're starting to adapt that. That's obviously helping you as you're progressing your career too. But then it all comes to a screeching halt. Take me through that, and then obviously the big lesson learned from the screeching halt.
Then there are some people who can uh, divide their life, and a between before and after that happens in a minute, on a
Mhm.
split second. That happened to me on June 19th, 2013.
Wow, you got it down to the
Oh
date.
yes, around 10 in the morning, when I was arrested. A friend of mine who was a retired detective gave me one of those friend and family badges. Actually, the most powerful thing you can have is the badge
Yeah,
itself, a
yeah,
small replica. And he said to me, Alfredo, with this, you're going to have no problems. And I was manic. I was suffering from mania for a few months. I went to my psychiatrist and I lied, because manic people want the mania. You work like crazy, you don't sleep, then you have many hours to work, you lose weight, you have boundless energy, you feel on top of the world, grandiosity, then you want your mania. Then I went to my psychiatrist, I lied, and he gave me an antidepressant.
mm,
Then I was manic, wrongly medicated, and with a badge. That's not a good combination, Mikey.
no,
And I began patrolling the streets of the highways of New York, and telling people, showing my badge and telling people how to drive,
yeah,
until I show it to a young lady, and she took her phone, make a phone call, and 30 seconds later, I had three patrols behind me, and I was arrested. I was accused of impersonating a police officer,
mm,
a felony. I was taken to court. The lady was there, pointed, he was the one. Then later, they had a restraining order against me, and I looked at her name and I googled her and I saw that she was getting married, and I fell off my chair. He was getting married to the policeman that arrested me.
Oh, wow.
That,
Yeah.
that's why I had, that was the phone call she made. Then I was arrested and I appear on the news as
Wow.
I newspapers. I lost my job. I lost my friends. Lost all my consulting engagements. I lost everything. I was hospitalized in a psychiatric ward, and that's where they discovered that I had bipolar disorder.
Mm.
Then,
Mm.
in a span of 2 weeks, I went from a complete redefinition of how I saw myself, now having to deal with bipolar, being jobless, on the press, people, friends stopping talking to me, complete depression. And I went into depression for many months on a couch, Mikey, like unable to move in complete obscurity and darkness, with no sense of future, suicidal. I was hospitalized a couple of more times until one morning I felt an energy, a power me, lifting me up from the couch and pushing me up to my study. And there I found on my desk something that would change my life. And I can't tell you how it got there because I have no recollection. Was a file which I opened, and there I found a test in positive psychology I had taken a few months before, and I read the result, my strength, my character strength, creativity, love of learning, curiosity, perseverance, and courage. And something like a switch was turned inside of me, and I said, Alfredo, wow, that's who you are, and you forgot all about it. And a month later, with depression, with the court cases, I was back in school to study social work, and I did fantastic, all propelled by my character strengths. Then
That is an
positive, positive psychology, positive psychology saved my life.
yeah,
And I said, I'm going to go through life to the rest of my life, giving people the gift of having their top character strengths.
incredible, incredible story. And thank you so much for being vulnerable and sharing that. My one question though, because I went through my mental illness, major depressive disorder, and I still struggle with I have some thoughts as to like what that click was, right? And started it. But you described it in a really interesting way as you felt this energy lifting you up, right? It got you to see this result. Reflecting back, what do you think that was? Like how do you even describe it, start making sense of that because you're at such a horrific place, right?
Look, I think that there is a preparation that you have to do today for when the storm comes. And as I mentioned, I was going through therapy. Before that, I was, I already was, I already had the top strengths of body psychology. I just had forgotten them. Okay. Then you had to build a strong ship from when you go through the storm. Okay. And that time begins now, and begins with and I will tell everybody how to get their top strengths of positive psychology, by the way. I promise those who are listening, I will tell you how to get them. But, know your strength, know your friends, okay? Have discipline. And when the storm hits, you're going to be in a better situation. Then clearly the first couple of months with depression, you cannot fight it. Okay. And people who tell you, come on, just take a shower, take a walk, they're well intentioned, but there are some moments of depression where unless you are in danger, you need to go through it. It's a process, but you have to be well equipped for those moments where you can move ahead. And
So
I
you so
have
you had a good ship foundation
yes.
that you think helped you get long enough to a point where you felt the positive energy.
It's like having some money in the bank for bad times.
Ooh,
You have
I
to
like that analogy as well too. Uh,
you have to build yourself. You have to build your resilience, your self knowledge, your strength now. Okay,
yeah.
and the, people have it wrong. People, and I mentioned it before. The paradigm is that you need to go through tough times to get the things thick skin, to toughen yourself up. No way. You have to be strong now for when the bad times come.
Ooh.
I think that there is, and this comes all from this conception that suffering brings redemption. And I'd like to turn this equation upside down. You had to find redemption now. And
And how do you find is it is simple things like my head goes to um how to build that strength now is like let's take today. I wake up, I'm super thankful I have a beautiful 2.5-year-old. I have an amazing wife. I have the life I've always dreamed of. And I just sit with that and I feel comfortable with that. And that helps build that strength and resilience for me because I now have this moment in time where I know life can be awesome and grand, right? And then two, a lot of times I'll think back to the worst of the worst. Uh, I got through that. I can get through anything. And so I consistently try to go back and remind myself that as well. And so when the bad things do happen, I have these frames for me to lean on. Is that what you're kind of talking about, or I'm missing the mark?
that's one aspect. I would add to that you need to understand what story you're writing for yourself. As I mentioned before, what your explanatory style, and when you go through negative inner dialogue, you need to stop and be reflective about which kind of writer you are and which kind of words, what are your key words? Always, never, I am this, I am that, I am unlucky, nobody loves me, I am set for failure. Okay, what are the limiting beliefs that are preventing you of becoming all you can? And then it's an art, it's an exercise, a habit of stopping mid negative inner dialogue and step outside of it and ask how I am explaining my life to myself. That's essential. I mentioned that therapy for many people is important. For me, it is. You have to build your physical strength. Okay, you have to have physical activity. Okay, that's very important. You need to know your positive psychology character strengths and owe them and practice them. Okay, you have to decide what information you allowed to come to your life. I think that we are in a world where we are bombarded and by information. Algorithms are deciding what gets to you, and you need as much as possible to be the owner of what content comes to your mind. And I am very picky about that. I don't watch TV. I watch series, Netflix, and things like that, but I don't watch the news. I don't watch anything that has ideology behind it, trying to convince me
Same.
of things. I use social media professionally, LinkedIn. I use Instagram, but already the algorithm knows that I use it for fun things, for what is the best pizza in town, and the Cairo New Museum of Archaeology, and then even as is entertaining, is entertaining for fun and not for ideology. And then 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 I am very picky about what I let into my mind.
Yeah,
Very picky.
that's beautiful. So we talked about, to just recap, you had reflection, health, understanding your positive traits and double down on those. Your source of information. What did I miss? Is that everything?
No, you got them. You got
Yeah.
them.
Perfect. So let's do this. We're really transitioning into chapter 3. What I like to do kind of here though is reset. So you have shared so many insights, beautiful life story, and we're at the positive psychology. You found this has fundamentally changed your life. Uh, Almost even like like a startup elevator pitch, 2 minutes or less. How would you explain positive psychology to everybody?
Positive psychology, the science of what works. It is
Mm,
science of flourishing, motivation, hope, optimism, resilience, purpose. For 100 years, psychology studied the negative, what hurts, psychosis, depression, neurosis. In 1998, the field began a revolution. That's not all we are. Our mind, our psyche is all about wonderful things, and we haven't studied them, we haven't explored them. And in 1998, that revolution began, and now we have tremendous amount of knowledge of how to achieve well-being in a
mm,
scientific way.
beautiful. That's a great concise way of getting there. And so, um, just explain to me somebody that's interested in this. How would they get into it? What are your recommendations?
The first thing I'm going to do is a gift to everybody who's listening. You should know your top five. There are 24 character strengths of positive psychology, which are universal. We know that those 24 character strengths appear through the entire history of humanity in different cultures, in all cultures and geographies. Humor, love of learning, humility, forgiveness, spirituality, leadership, humor. These are part of the 24. And everybody of those 24 has five top ones, which are what we call the signature strengths. If you know them, just by knowing them, Mikey, your capacity to flourish goes 9 times fold. And if you apply them, 18 times. And
Yeah.
two-thirds of people are unaware of their own character strengths. Then the first thing I'm going to do is to tell people how to get them. Take your phone, okay? Take your phone and text the word positive to 33777. As easy as that. Take your phone, text simply the word positive to 33777, and I will send you in the reply the 24 character strengths of body psychology on a chart and 2 or 3 questions for you to determine your top five.
Love it.
I want
3377?
33777. Two
33777.
threes and two threes and 3 sevens.
Yep. That's
And
I'm absolutely doing this.
there is no, I'm not selling anything.
Yeah.
I
You're just
wanted
giving a gift.
I wanted everybody. That day I found my own character strengths and changed my life. I said, I want at least one person a day. That's my commitment, that I give the one person a day at least the chance, the opportunity to live a fuller life. What is amazing, Mikey, is that everybody has them, the character strengths.
Yeah.
Then it just that's why by knowing them, you transition from using them by default to using them intentionally, and that's when the nine times happens.
Right.
Because you already have them. It's a waste that you have them and you cannot apply them intentionally.
So to explain this 9 times, and you've said different times here. What do you mean by that?
Then suppose that you are. Let's go back to the plumber and the bursting pipe, and you
Right.
call a plumber, and the plumber has all the knowledge, but tells you, "Wow, I forgot my toolkit at home."
Huh?
Okay, will not be able to do the job. Okay, those five character strengths are your toolkit. Then once you have your toolkit and you know what's there, you can apply your strengths intentionally
Mm.
to whatever challenge you have. And by just knowing what you have, your capacity to perform, to do better, to flourish is nine times higher.
Okay.
Okay, nine times higher. Now, if you know your top five strengths that everybody should do now, and you say, okay, Monday I'm going to apply my strength number one intentionally. Tuesday I'm going to apply my strength number two intentionally. Wednesday, my third intentionally, and you do that through the week, studies show that your flourishing capacity goes through the roof.
Mm. Gotcha.
And when you do the positive 33777, I'm not only going to give you a couple of questions to determine your character strengths, I also have included a few exercises of how to
Beautiful.
apply them
Yeah.
and maximize them.
That's amazing. And so here's what and this is the crazy world that we're in, right? When we start talking positive all the time, I don't know why, but this came to me, which is like you hear this term and you see it, which is toxic positivity, which
Yes,
is an overzealous waste of positivity or just a fakeness in positivity. How do you combat this concept based on what you're building?
I think that positive psychology made a mistake choosing its name.
Mm,
I understand why they did it as opposed to the traditional psychology of the what of suffering and what's wrong. I think that they chose the wrong name and they didn't foresee the the problem you're mentioning. This is not about positivity in the rosy way,
yeah,
because negative emotions are also part of the game in positive psychology,
yeah,
and also because you need to have some pessimism to function.
yeah,
Okay, pessimism brings realism.
yep.
Okay,
Would you
then
would you how would you redefine it? Would you call it purpose driven psychology, something like that?
I will,
How would you
I've
define it?
been thinking about purpose works. Some people call it now the psychology of happiness. I'm not so crazy about that either.
Happiness is a tough word too, right?
Yes, I like better of flourishing and well-being. When they ask me what positive
Mm.
psychology is about, it's flourishing and well-being.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the
Mm-hmm.
psychology of flourishing and well-being, and
How
it's a
about the concept of self awareness? Does that do
it's
anything for you?
part of it. It's part of it, but I see self-awareness more like a tool and an attitude.
Uh huh.
I think that flourishing and well-being is more proactive,
Yeah.
but the problem is that flourishing and well-being would not have been good for marketing.
Right. Right.
Okay, then it's a tough one. I've been thinking about
Yeah.
different, but definitely positive psychology has nothing to do with all positivity and rosy and realistic. That's not what it means, but it lends itself to that interpretation.
Correct, correct. And so, take me through how you're what you're doing with positive psychology right now, um, and what you're most excited about that you're working on.
Then I work a lot with corporations and with organizations and with leaders to move from fixing to nourishing. That's, to know the strengths. I'm called a lot to do workshops at teams, which I love tremendously, where I give a workshop on character strengths, where everybody get their character strengths, and we get a team character strengths map, and teams begin functioning at their full potential by the choir, the symphony of strengths that the members have, and I move teams to really perform much, much better and relate to each other much better. I am an expert on purpose. Purpose is defined as giving the best of yourself for the benefit of others.
Mm.
Giving the best of yourself for the benefit of others. I am one of the first 100 licensed consultants to the Purpose Factor instrument. The Purpose Factor instrument is the best instrument, the only instrument today to measure purpose. I am
Take
a,
me through that.
I am a founding practitioner. It's an instrument that gives you a 49-page description of your purpose from all angles. It's the only instrument of its kind.
And
Today,
is this a simple questionnaire or
it's a
an interview?
questionnaire.
What does it look like?
It's a questionnaire you complete online that takes 25 minutes.
Mm.
Like a standard,
How did you get to these questions? How did you get to the output? What are your thoughts? Are you using combination of AI? This is
no, no, no.
mind in the research of
This is a scientific instrument done by, it took like 10,000 hours of research.
Mhm.
It's called the purpose factor, the same way that there is a Myers-Briggs
Yeah, yeah.
for personality, and the same way that there's a VIA, values in action, for positive psychology. And there is now one for purpose called the purpose factor, a scientific, reliable, consistent instrument. I was fortunate to be connected to the purpose company that created it and be among the 100 first practitioners of this
So
instrument.
so tools are great, right? But like I can't tell you how many personality tests or Myers-Briggs or all these things. And it's just like to me, yes, it's good to have that insight, but none of those other tests I've ever taken or your colors or whatever it is, they're interesting insights, but I don't think they were ever like, wow, this is like impactful, practical, and I want to apply this. So what's the difference between the positive psychology and the things that you're talking about
The
compared to
difference,
all of these other things that I've been forced to take over my career?
well, look, again, instruments are tools. The secret sauce is on the workshop I give and the way I take you through the interpretation and the application of the tools. Then on the workshops I lead are workshops where we go through exercises and games, a lot of games about how to internalize, use them, apply them. We go to simulation games of actual problems and challenges the team has. We go into limiting beliefs. Clearly, this is the way I see it. You go for a physical once a year. It would be irresponsible if you go to a physical and the doctor doesn't give you a blood test and take your pressure
Right.
and some x-rays. The instruments are that.
Yeah.
The instruments are the blood pressure and the x-rays. But then you're going to have good doctors or bad doctors who are going to give you the right prescription and interpretation and diagnosis and way of living that is going to make you healthy.
Yeah.
Okay. Then, but if you don't have a good diagnosis through instruments, then you want to run away from that doctor. Then I use the best instruments I know to have the most precise diagnosis.
Yeah.
But then it comes, hey, what do we do with it? And that's where I think I give a unique blend of coming from philosophy and coming from social work and executive coaching and positive psychology. I have been able to create a kind of process, okay, which I call it, I have a formula for it, which is positive plus purpose equal peak performance.
Mm.
Then positive means character strengths. First, you get your character strengths, and I give a workshop on character strengths. Then you go into purpose. Why you are here? Why you come to work every day? What motivates you? And if you put those together in the right combination, then you get peak performance.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That's what I do. And look, it took me many years to perfect it, but I think that at the end of the day, and some consultants may not like what I'm going to say, it comes all about not how good the workshop is, but about the relationship you create. And, and, and,
Kidding
who,
me? That's all it's about.
and who you are. And I tell you, I just came from Chile and I gave a workshop in positive psychology. We went to a retreat center. These were all young executives, very successful. And they took me, 8 of them, to that retreat outside of Santiago of Chile, beautiful place. And that's supposed to be a 4 hour workshop in positive psychology. It went to 6 hours. They went so engaged. They were so engaged. And then I said, I'm going to give you as a gift to each one of you a 15 minutes power coach session. I was already exhausted after 6 hours, but we clicked so well. And I worked with them, each one of them 15 minutes. And nobody asked me a question about business.
Mm.
Given what we learn about positive psychology and life, I am having problem with my son. I don't know how to communicate with my partner. Okay, I am in a life transition. Everything came down to questions about life
Yeah.
and trust. And that's what I bring to the table. Okay, a connection with people. Yes, I know the instruments. I have great workshops. Okay, I think that it's very effective. But at the end of the day, I think what I do is because of my life experience, I connect with people and I having, after I do my job, I still connecting with people decades later that I go to a city. I go to Chile to work in Argentina this June. I go the entire month of June. Yeah, I do a lot of work in South America, and I'm going to do all the workshops, etc. And then I'm going to have like 20 just coffees with people who have been my clients that I will not stop in a city without just going for coffee and see how you do it.
Yeah. Beautiful. And so my head then now naturally goes to um I'm in AI, you're seeing tech and all of these things. It's moving so fast, right? And the other thing, my secondary purpose actually came from this podcast. Primary purpose, help people just tell their human stories because I think it unlocks a lot of the things that we're talking about. I think a human story is one of the most powerful things that we have. I actually think the reason why we are where we are is because the advent of a story, right? Stories have created humans to this point. One of the most powerful things we've ever done. Secondary that then came up is a lot of AI people started coming on the podcast because I was always tech focused. And I realized, well, wow, I'm less than 1% of the world that has access to this technology, understands what's actually happening, how quickly it goes. And our next main crisis is exactly what we're talking about, which is sense of self, self worth, purpose. No one is thinking about that. They care about how much money they're making and what their job title is. And we are set up for a massive disaster because it is happening within 12 months or less. Millions of people are going to face this question. We are at the precipice of the we are at the cliff right now, and people are already starting to fall off. What are your thoughts?
Look, this is a good segue. I don't think we talked about it. And this is not prepared, guys. People who are listening, this is not prepared. This is just good conversation. I am having a book coming out in a couple of months.
Beautiful.
It's called The Human Upgrade, The New Leadership for the AI Revolution.
Mm.
It's being published by Maxwell. For those who know about leadership, John Maxwell. It's being published by John Maxwell Leadership, one of the most prestigious houses of publishing. It's called The Human Upgrade. And what I have done in this book is the application of the principles of positive psychology to the challenges of AI.
Let's unpack that a little bit. So what are some of your main thoughts and points?
Then what we are finding with AI is greater performance and greater efficiency.
Mhm.
That's the gift of AI.
Yep.
We perform better, faster, and more precise. At the same time, in companies, we are seeing an increase in anxiety, uncertainty, and depression.
Yep.
There are two forces which are opposite to each other. And what I hear from leaders is we know how to manage technology, we don't know how to manage the human side of technology. Then what's going on here? This new technology is supposed to make us better, and we are internally falling apart. And the solution is what they call the human upgrade, which is based on this formula that I mentioned before. Positivity, purpose equals peak performance. And what I do in the book, I go through all the systems and tools of how to apply positive psychology to make sure that you upgrade the human dimension as much as the technological or more. Because what's going to happen, and is happening, is that as AI grows, the human recedes because AI is taking a lot of what is called the human.
Yeah.
Then
Which is actually not. Let's be honest. AI is actually just taking away the annoying parts of living, and it's not. The problem is we've associated what it's taking away as human when it really is actually not.
Not sure. Look, AI is writing songs. AI is writing poems.
Correct.
AI, AI is going to mingle with our bodies. I don't think that too far in the future, our own bodies are going to have AI components, chips in our brains, and computers in our skin itself, beyond limbs, which are going to be. I think that we are moving very fast in that direction. Robots. People are going to be a question when Japan is going to come up with a robot that people are going to marry. And then,
100%. So I agree with you, and these are all outputs of being human. But this and this, I actually think that the kind of the next class war is do you stay 100% human, or are you some type of cyborg, or do you believe in pure AI sentience and some digital god, right? This is already happening, by the way. There are digital religions and AI religions and everything.
Right.
And so this is going to be the argument and debate over the next couple decades. And so what I'm still getting at is I believe with you, like they're taking, like it's not even taking away. It is, I think our challenge is how do we coexist with this? But what we're doing right now, even if you create a robot that can do all of this stuff, if we were in person, me embracing you in a warm human hug, I still think is going to be different.
No, but that's the point. The point is we are in the same on the same. The point of the book.
No, we are.
Absolutely, you're making my point clear. Actually, my point is that as AI grows, the human is going to become more valuable.
100%.
Okay. The luxury of the human, is going to be in some way more scarce, and it becomes more scarce, becomes more valuable. Then what I am trying to explain companies is that those who are investing on the human actually are increasing their value.
Yes.
Because the companies are going to make it in the future are not going to be only the ones who have the better technology, are the ones who people relate to at the human dimension.
Yep.
And those are the companies who are going to succeed.
Yep.
And then that's the core of the book, how to create a company where the human still core as we adopt technology. And
Right.
there I go through a chapter on hope, a chapter on gratitude, a chapter on what kind of teams you need, what is the leadership, which kind of leadership you execute. And every chapter has the theoretical foundations, a lot of case studies. I bring 2 or 3 cases for each one, how to, and then at the end, I bring workshops that each company can execute to achieve it.
Beautiful.
Okay.
I love it.
But I'm still betting on the human, but many leaders tell me they don't know how to do it.
Oh, of
They
course.
don't know how to do it.
And why is that? Do you think it is because my personal opinion, my head immediately goes to this. They don't want to do it because it is by far, in my opinion, the harder thing to do.
Yeah, humans, we are the most complex, difficult, challenging, but the most amazing, creative, and sensitive. Then yes, people thought that they're going to solve all the problems with the IT team. Bring the IT team or the HR, and I am sorry, we are beginning to understand that AI is not the technological change; it's a cultural change.
Yeah, it's a complete different way of living.
Exactly, and who live that culture? People.
Yep.
Okay.
And if you don't figure that out, it's you will be run by that robot in Japan, and you're not going to be happy about it.
Then if you don't take care of people, the system will fail.
Yep.
And you have to take care of people in a different way because the way it worked before are not applicable anymore. And what I tried in this book is to say, okay, positive psychology has something to contribute to this discussion.
Yep.
And it's the first book, to my knowledge, Mikey, that is bringing positive psychology as a book. There are some articles, but positive psychology as a book in a systematic way to help companies transition. And that's what they're asking me a lot in the workshops I'm giving now. That's become a big part of what I do.
Yeah. Yeah. That's beautiful. And so I want to be cognizant of time. This has been such an incredible conversation. We're an hour and a half in, by the way. I feel like
it's been 10 minutes.
Yeah, it's been 10 minutes, right? Let's do this. I always ask one question at the end. Promise it's a softball. It's not going to be crazy, but I do want to take, the next 3 to 6 months. You've got the book coming out, but tell me what you're really excited about the next 3 to 6 months, the future, knowing that things are changing so fast on a daily basis.
Then I have another book coming out in Spanish.
Nice.
Yes, I read a lot. I have another book in Spanish called Una Oportunidad Más, One More Opportunity. hopefully we make it to English, which is how to find opportunities
Ooh.
today. I write opportunities are like love. Everybody wants them and deserves them, but they don't know how to begin looking for them.
It's good.
And what this book is about, how to find opportunities. And as much as I am excited about the book on the human upgrade, which is directed to businesses, this about opportunities is that directed to the general public.
Yeah, it's at a personal level, it seems.
Yes, the personal level. And I am beginning to talk a lot about that. And much of my social media today is about how to find opportunities,
It's
which
huge. This is gonna be huge over the next 12 months.
because they tell us that is the world of more opportunities than ever. That's what we hear, but very few people are believing that or experiencing this. And I began looking and I found very little written about opportunities. And then I spent a long time studying it, and I came with this book that hopefully at some point is going to come out also in English. I always write a book in Spanish and a book in English because those are my
Yeah, I
two
love it.
my two. Then that's what I am focusing a lot on my coaching in English and in Spanish, wherever whoever I'm coaching, because they come to me a lot with this issue. People feel looking for something. They're looking and they don't know how to begin looking for it. They have this feeling inside that I am trapped. I am not getting enough for that I deserve. And how do I begin that search? An opportunity. You never. What I say in the book, that you never wait for an opportunity, which is the way we see opportunities. Opportunity is something that will happen.
Yep.
You, that's the wrong approach. Opportunities are already there. Opportunity is a way of seeing. Is training to see in a different way. The difference between people who have opportunities and do not is on the way they see, and that's what the book is about: training the art of seeing what is already there.
Yeah, and that resonates deeply with me because if I look back over my career and the cool things that I've done, they've all come from me taking action because I saw an opportunity.
Action brings clarity, no clarity action. That's something that also we have it wrong. I'm going to motivate and have clarity to act. Is the other way around. Action brings motivation
A
and clarity.
100%. And it gets to, I mean, that's like literally this conversation is a product of this, right? It took me
Right.
5 years to find you, but I found you. And
We found
I
each other.
found you. You're close to 250 founders and creators that have come through this show. It took me 250 conversations to find a guy that was born really, really far away from me, had a completely different life experience, but had a fall from grace just like me. And we end up with it literally like doppelgangers and mindsets here. And that is the power of doing. You're seeing it unfold right now. You saw it for the last hour and a half. That
Thank
is
you.
that is the power of what we're doing here, man.
I feel
Um,
fulfilled today. Really, like these kind of conversations have an effect that goes way beyond today. And I'm going to go to my wife and going to tell me today, how was your day? I'm
yeah.
going to say, spectacular.
Oh man, thank you so much. I do want one question before I ask your formal question, which is um this opportunity concept is fascinating and probably will be not probably already is one of the hottest topics here for people because again the sense of self and everything other than reading your book or taking your test like really what is that one thing that you think about with opportunity? What's your advice to that person right now that's listening, that is so locked in, focused? We have tons of people watching, and you have an opportunity to tell them about opportunity. What would you
Yeah,
say?
you have a a opportunity, and I may be repetitive, but it's important. We were trained to connect the word opportunity to a future event. Wait for an opportunity. The opportunity will come. And then when we think about opportunity, we are almost pushed into a passive attitude, as if we are looking for an opportunity. And the looking for, the waiting is all like it will. And the people who have opportunities operate from what is here right now. Opportunities do not appear. They are not magic. Opportunities are a way of seeing, are an attitude of taking control of your life right now, of being positive right now, of connecting the dots right now, of asking yourself, what am I going to do within the next 20 seconds? The opportunity begins in the next 20 seconds. It could be a search on ChatGPT. It could be the right phone call. Okay. It could be sitting and writing something. It could be dreaming of something, but opportunity begins in the next 20 seconds. If you cannot think about what you're going to do in the next 20 seconds, then you are not on the opportunity path. Okay. That is right now.
Yeah, I love that. And what I love, this is like a great way to wrap the bow on the opportunity part is, you gave a very specific action, right? And it is as simple as what's incredible to me is, um, a fraction of the world, even though the world has, it's an incredible amount of people have access to a cell phone, which could get a free version of ChatGPT, which is we're almost Einstein level at everything here, right? One question could change that opportunity. So,
Yes.
which I really liked what you did was and this is, I've learned this about myself. My way of teaching is always to really think about complex things and simplify them and dumb them down to give them one action. And that one action is, I love the framework of AI, ChatGPT. Go ask a question, go give somebody a hug. That could change, literally change the course of your life.
I'm going to tell you something that I am convinced. One thing that AI is going to do is going to release us from the burden of content. It's going
Agreed.
to be the content available world. Then who is going to have the upper hand in a world full of content? The person who will have the upper hand in a world full of content is the person who asks the best question.
Yes. Boom. You nailed it. And speaking of questions, to wind it down, I ask every guest that comes through this show the same question at the end. If you were to describe to somebody how the Mikey G experience was, what would you say?
No, authentic.
Oh, perfect. That's it. That's it. And
Authentic.
it literally 100% success rate that you felt that, because that is so meaningful in this day and age. And man, if I think back at, and you can tell that you've talked about this a lot, right? But one, you're vulnerable and you shared those stories, and there's just no doubt in my mind. I said just one person will be affected by the conversation today. Hundreds, if not thousands, of people. This could fundamentally change their opportunity or the way they think about their purpose and their mission and their vision. And I can't critically enough just put the importance down on how monumental these concepts are for, and I'm not saying the next decade. I am literally saying the next 12 months or less.
Then, Mikey, I wanted to have the opportunity to have a conversation like this one. I didn't wait. I was one morning, opened my LinkedIn and began looking for you.
Yeah.
And I found you. Okay. I didn't wait for you to contact me. The opportunity was me going to the LinkedIn, and the next 20 seconds took me more, find people like you.
Yeah.
Again, I created the opportunity. I didn't wait. Would have never happened.
Correct.
Okay. And that's what I mean about opportunity. You had to make the first move.
Yeah. I 100% agree. And I deeply like this is, and like I said in the beginning too, I really do look at this as the beginning of a friendship.
Absolutely.
I cannot wait to have many, many follow-up conversations. I want to help your cause, man. I deeply believe in that. I already texted. I'm gonna do my positivity psychology test. I think you came off insanely authentic. You were vulnerable. You shared insights that are very simple, but yet so profound all at the same time. I can tell your brain is just beautifully intelligent. The amount, I can tell the wisdom, right? Wisdom is the word that comes to my mind
Thank you
because
so
it's a lot of, not only did you experience life, I can tell you worked really, really hard at learning things a majority of your life too. And that is such a rare trait, and that should never be lost on you, not in an egotistical way, right? But in the fact that you should be
Thank you so
prideful
much.
of the things that you've done and the way that you've done them. And I think the best thing that you can ever do with the things that you've gone through, and the reason why I do, like I actually always started this whole thing to do exactly what we're doing right now, is to share this story to help people. And you've taken something so negative and turned it into something so positive, and not in the toxic positivity way, in the way that grounds you in meaning and purpose and vision, and the things that back to the last part of the conversation is, people really need to realize by the end of next year, the world will have fundamentally changed. We have people and AI agents, I'm working on this every day, that are just automating everything you would do in front of a computer, and they're doing it 100 times faster and 1,000,000 times better than a human will ever do. And so what do you do with a scenario like that? You need to figure out everything that we talked about. And I think you did a beautiful, beautiful job of describing it, taking us through your life story. And from the bottom of my heart, you gave me 1 hour and 43 minutes. That is the most valuable thing anybody has, is time. And I appreciate that really from the bottom of my heart. So thank you, Alfredo. Thank you for taking that opportunity to find me, because this is one of the better podcasts I've ever had.
Oh my God. Thank you so much. Again, we call it flow in positive psychology. Yes. When hours go like minutes.
Yeah. Thank you so much. And with that being said, people, we are at the end of the Mikey G Podcast Experience. We appreciate you all. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Please spread the word about Alfredo. Look him up on LinkedIn. His name's on the bottom of the screen. I'll put all the links to his new books when they come out, and all the ways that you can find the positive psychology, sense of self, purpose, all of the things that we've talked about. We love you all.